Shout out to G-Man Boxing. Where's the piss bottle? It's over there.
Alright, so last night Canelo Alvarez became undisputed 168-pound champion. Now, he said that his next fight won't be until May of next year. Alright, so I think it's saying, is it Mexican Independence Weekend or Cinco de Mayo? It's one of the holidays anyway. So he's not gonna fight till then. Now, it kind of makes you wonder who is he gonna fight next. Because I thought to myself prior to Canelo saying it won't be till May next year, that if he was going to fight, if he was planning on doing 3 or 4 fights again, that he might take the mandatory against Zach Parker early next year as a bit of a kind of a, showcase, easy enough fight, and then, get a big fight later on. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. I'd be very surprised if he fights Zach Parker in May, put it like that. I can imagine it's going to be a much bigger fight. Now, at 168, who is there really to fight? There's only one person who comes to mind at this minute in time who Canelo, I would love to see him fight, and may very well happen, and that's Dave Benavidez. I think Benavidez stylistically could give Canelo problems. Benavidez, the only thing I worry about is his discipline. I mean, this is a man who's lost his world title twice without losing a fight. Lest we forget, he tested positive for a banned recreational substance a couple of years ago, and it shows the double standards of the WBC. To be fair, it does, because he tested positive outside of camp for, a bit of the old how you doing, and he got stripped, rightfully so, he should have. But you have Oscar Valdez testing positive for a performance enhancer in camp for a fight, and he's allowed to not only go through with the fight, but not get stripped, which is bizarre. And then obviously he missed weight quite badly. Was it last? It was last September or August he did it. He missed weight quite badly as well. It wasn't just by a pound or two. I think it was by about 2 pounds or something like that. 3 pounds maybe. It was a bad weight loss. It was a bad and he looked soft in the ring that night as well. So discipline has always been a worry for Dave Benavidez. He is very big for the weight, but I think stylistically he is very relentless. He hits very hard. I think he could cause Canelo fits in there. I really do. I wouldn't mind seeing that. If we look at light heavyweight, would Canelo bring one of the champions down? And what I mean by that is, would he bring Dimitri Bivol down? Or would he be willing to maybe look at Dimitri Bivol and say, the zone fighter, easy enough fight to make, WBA title at 175, will I fight him? Possibly could. Dimitri Bivol remember when the Caleb Plant fight was set for September, it fell through. Dimitri Bivol, there was a lot of talk that fight was very close to be being made for Canelo in September. Subsequently, they got the Plant fight over the line. We ended up fighting Plant. Wouldn't shock me if he fights Dimitri Bivol next. Wouldn't shock me at all. In terms of someone like a Charlo, well, Canelo's not going to go down to 160, so you'd imagine he'd have to go up to 168 in order to fight him. Jamal Charlo, he's really kind of stagnated over the years, hasn't he? He is still a very good fighter. He is. His twin brother Jamel has really stolen a march on him. No, he really has. Could have been undisputed champion this year. I personally felt Brian Castano won the fight, but he escaped with his title. He's really stolen the march on his brother Jamal this year, or the last few years, to be fair. Him against Canelo, I would favour Canelo heavily. He's not fought at 168, so I wonder how he would transition into that weight, to be honest with you, especially if he's never fought it, going in there straight into Canelo. Obviously, there's one name at 160 who is heavily associated with Canelo, and that's Triple G. Now, as I said, Canelo's not going to go back down to 160. It's just not going to happen. He's outgrown that weight. He outgrew that weight a couple of years ago, to be fair. He outgrew that weight when he was still fighting that Canelo weight, which that says it all about Canelo. He was always a super middleweight. Even back about 5 years ago, he was a super middleweight, killing himself to make 155 pounds. How he did it is beyond me. I don't know how he did it. But Triple G has this fight with Murata in December. Now, if Triple G wins, wouldn't shock me at all if Canelo decides, I'll go back and work with Eddie and the Zone, maybe for a fight or two. Wouldn't shock me if the Zone try and just kind of nudge Canelo into that fight. Because ever since Canelo signed that contract with the Zone a few years ago, Triple G, Canelo 3, that was the fight the Zone seemingly wanted. They really seem to want that fight specifically. Now, I don't know why, because it doesn't appeal to me. Certainly not now. even after the second fight, I was like, I've seen it twice. I don't really want to see it again. But we're talking about a Triple G. He'll be 40 years old, if I'm right. I think he will be as well by the time that fight comes about, if it happens in May. I don't want to see a 40-year-old Triple G. And certainly, imagine he wins against Murata, but he looks very vulnerable. I really wouldn't want to see that. You're talking about prime Canelo versus an over-the-hill Triple G, or a certainly past his prime Triple G. I really wouldn't want to see that, to be honest with you. But the Zone may want to do what they may think. We can do pay-per-view, we can sell it as a trilogy, we can sell it as, well, it was a draw the first time, but Triple G really won. Canelo won the second time. Who's going to win? Who's going to win the decider? They could do it like that. They'll probably sell it like that. Wouldn't shock me if that's what they did. Would not shock me in the slightest. The one fight I think that is really key for Canelo, and that Canelo's team will be looking at very closely, is is Artur Beterbiev versus Marcus Brown. I think that the winner of that fight, depending now, I don't think Marcus Brown will win, personally, but I can't dismiss him. He is very quick, he is very athletic, but I just think his chin is really poor, and I think that he defensively is not great. He tends to really look worried at times in there when someone's coming very close to him and throwing big shots. He's looked like that for years now. Him against Artur Beterbiev. Now, Beterbiev is a very dangerous fighter, is a very big puncher, but he's in the wrong side of 30 now. Throughout his career, he has been plagued with inactivity. It's actually quite sad, really, that we've a fighter as good as Beterbiev, who we've seen so little of. Been plagued with it. There's been times where he's had months, over a year out of the ring between fights. It's crazy. It's sad to see because he's such a good fighter. In his last fight back in March, in my opinion, although he won the fight and he won it convincingly, there was moments where he wasn't looking good at all. He really wasn't. And one has to ask two questions. Is age catching up to Artur Beterbiev, being the fact that he is the wrong side of 30? Now, he lives a very clean lifestyle. He does. So you'd say that it's not a case of, is he just living a really bad lifestyle and struggling? It's not that. But Father Time's undefeated. Some fighters will age the same in years, but they might age, you never know what way they could be. Their body could age differently. They could slow down a lot quicker than others, God knows. But as well as that, you got to ask about the weight. This is a man who in 2012 London was fighting a heavyweight. Heavyweight in the amateurs is cruiserweight in the pros, basically. The limit is 201 pounds. That's the limit in the heavyweight division in amateurs. So he was fighting guys like Usyk in the amateurs. Dorticos. He actually stopped Ernell Dorticos in the amateurs, believe it or not. And Dorticos has a good chin. That's who he was fighting back then. That was 10 years ago. He's at light heavyweight now. I suspect light heavyweight for him is a struggle. I suspect it is. And I think that if he looks vulnerable against Marcus Brown, or if maybe even Marcus Brown wins but doesn't look good, I'd imagine Canelo will be looking at one of them. I'd imagine Joe Smith as well might be a name that Canelo looks at as well, because who the hell is Joe Smith fighting? Joe Smith is a very crude fighter. He's a very relentless fighter, and he's done a lot, based on the little, I don't want to sound disrespectful, but he's more a brawler than he is a fighter. He's not got the best skills in the world. Even in his win against Fonfara, which is the first time many of us seen him, he was looking silly before he landed that big right hand and took Fonfara out. Fonfara was winning that first round comfortably. It's making Joe Smith look silly until he landed that big right hand. So he could probably look at Beterbiev and say, if I can get rid of you, I can get rid of Joe Smith. Bivol's kind of the missing link, where it's kind of like, But seriously, I'm not being funny. When I look at light heavyweight, Beterbiev is the one kind of question mark. But we could be looking at another undisputed, seriously. Because if Beterbiev really declines, you would give Canelo a better chance then. I'd pick him over Joe Smith now, I would. Although Joe Smith's much bigger, I would still pick him. Bivol, I think Bivol stagnated too much in his career. People, I'm telling you now, looking at light heavyweight and just thinking about it rationally, he wouldn't have it as easy as he did at super middleweight, certainly not. For sure that the boy could do it at that weight division. Could you imagine? Undisputed 160, and there hasn't been a 4-belt undisputed champion at light heavyweight. There hasn't been. Who was the last undisputed champion at light heavyweight? Was it Michael Spinks? Was it Spinks? Might have been. Was Spinks ever undisputed though? I don't remember. I'm losing track here. But that could be something that Canelo does. In terms of other opponents, I'd imagine it's going to be a big enough opponent. So I can't imagine they're going to be looking at a Zach Parker or someone like that and say, we'll give him a mandatory. They're not going to do that. Demetrius Andre has his fight against Jay Quigley. I think Demetrius Andre versus Canelo was a good fight. I really do. I think Demetrius Andre is a better mover than Billy Joe. Is he a better mover? He's more awkward than Caleb Plant, certainly. Certainly more awkward. Doesn't have the reach that... don't say that. Demetrius Andre has extremely long arms, so maybe he does. Maybe he has actually a bit longer. But I find that fight, excuse me, very interesting. That's another fight, but I can't see that fight happening. To be honest with you, the fights I can see happening that are more likely, unfortunately, Triple G, Trilogy, or Beterbiev, depending on how he looks. Outside bet on Joe Smith. But they're the kind of three names I'd have for Canelo, and they're not saying they're the ones I'd want, but they're the ones I could see. If you had to ask me which fight I would love to see Canelo, I'd love to see him versus Benavidez. That's the fight I'd love to see. But what does Benavidez bring to the table? You see, here's the thing. Triple G brings a big payday. He does. Whatever you want to say it, Canelo Triple G 3, that's a big payday. That's a big money fight. It is. Whether you want to see it or not. Well, it might not make as much the second fight. Bit like Fury Wilder 3. Still do good. Go with the guys in light heavyweight, they bring titles. What does Benavidez bring? He doesn't bring anything. What does Charlo bring at 160? He doesn't bring anything. Likewise, Demetrius Andre, they don't bring anything. So you got to ask the question, why would Canelo fight them? And money as well. Like, why would he? They're not big draws. Why would he fight them? That's kind of my thought on that. Let me know yours in the comment section. Who would you like to see Canelo fight next, and who do you think he will? Bear in mind, I've said I'd like him to fight Dave Benavidez next, but I don't think he will. I think he'll fight Triple G next, or one of the light heavyweight champions, depending on how they look in their subsequent fights. That's what I'm thinking. Let me know yours in the comment section. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you could, lads and lasses, I've been talking for over an hour now. I've been making videos all day. Hope you enjoyed. If you could, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the old notification bell. For now, lads and lassies, happy Monday. Enjoy yourselves. Peace.